You want to know the pros and cons of living in Hayward, California? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today, so let's get to it. Welcome to the Thriving in the San Francisco East Bay channel. I'm Rich Fleming, your local realtor, and I'm here to show you everything you need to know about living, working, playing, sleeping, eating. You know the drill in the San Francisco East Bay. I get a ton of people who reach out to me with questions about what it's like to live here, how do they transition here, what do they need to know before they get here, and I absolutely love it. That's why I do these videos. I have moved places, not known anyone or anything. So if you got questions, drop me a text, give me a call, send me an email, contact information in the video description below. So as I always do in these videos, let's start with where you can find Hayward on the map. Now from downtown Oakland, Hayward is about 17 miles away, almost directly due south. You get on the 880 freeway and head south and you're there. Now from the southern border of Oakland, because Oakland is actually a pretty big landmass city, you're actually only about 6 or 7 miles away from Hayward. Now, according to the 2020 census, Hayward has about 160,000 people. So let's get into the pros and cons of living in Hayward. So pro one, location. Hayward's location is just pretty convenient if you're gonna live in the East Bay. So as I mentioned, you're only about 15 miles, 17 miles from downtown Oakland, and you can easily get into San Francisco. It's got 2 BART stations. You're not all that far from Fremont, which is starting to get into the Silicon Valley area. You've got easy access to 2 of the Bay Bridges, which will get you over to Silicon Valley, over to the Palo Alto area, and so on. So it is very centrally located for many aspects of living your life, going to work, being able to get to school if you're going to college in the area, being able to get to San Francisco. Now the first con of Hayward is kind of related to its location. It's got horrible traffic because the only major freeway going through Hayward is the 880 freeway. Now there's the 238 freeway, which leads out to kind of the Central Valley, but the primary freeway going through Hayward is the 880 freeway, and that is a very congested freeway because essentially it is the primary freeway along the bay heading from the Bay Bridge south, and you don't have a lot of other options if you want to go in that direction. So if you are very sensitive to traffic, Hayward may not be great for you. The second pro to Hayward, housing, and this takes a couple of different forms. One, the pricing of housing in Hayward is actually pretty reasonable by Bay Area standards. So the median price for a home in Hayward is $780,000 roughly, and that's down just under 9% from a year ago. And I am filming this in January of 2023. But what I consider to be the real benefit of housing in Hayward is the wide variety of housing. So you can find condominiums, you can find 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, small bungalows, starter homes. You can find hillside estates that have great views of the bay. If you're looking for a particular type of housing in Hayward, you're pretty much likely to find it outside of like ranch land. So if you want that variety, you want that option, Hayward's going to be for you. The second con to living in Hayward, crime. And crime, as I always tell people, is a complex subject. You can't just summarize it in a couple of minutes on a video or a grade from some kind of grading website. But if you do look at a comparison website for cities like niche.com, they give Hayward a grade of C. And that is primarily driven by somewhat higher levels of property crime. And that tends to be very common for cities along the 880 corridor, Oakland, San Leandro, Hayward, Union City. But the violent crime rates in Hayward are actually a little bit lower than Oakland and about comparable to San Leandro. Also keep in mind, in Hayward, like most cities, crime can very much vary by what part of the city you're in. So you have to understand the neighborhoods, you have to understand what's going on there to really make an assessment as to whether that is going to be the right area for you. The third pro to living in Hayward, that is the schools, and that might come as a surprise to a lot of people. Historically, Hayward doesn't have the reputation for having the strongest schools in the world, but Hayward has made a lot of strides over the last 5 to 10 years in their schools. If you look at a comparison website like niche.com, they actually give Hayward a rating of B+ for their schools. And they are definitely pouring effort and resources into trying to improve the schools even more. So as I always advise people to do, please do your own research, learn a little bit more about the individual schools and how those schools may fit the needs of your children and your family. Con number 3, well, for me, it's shopping, dining, nightlife, things like that. In my view, Hayward is a little bit lacking here. So Hayward has Southland Mall, but that mall really doesn't have what I consider to be a lot of good shopping. It's essentially moved Hayward's downtown small mom and pop store area to the mall. If you're looking for a lot of national brand stores in that mall, you're probably going to be disappointed. The Hayward downtown area doesn't have a lot of shopping, although they have made strides and they're making efforts and starting to show some results for revitalizing the downtown area. Definitely in terms of like adding some restaurants, a little bit of nightlife. So that's definitely improving a little bit. But overall, if you're looking for a plethora of shopping or dining options, you're definitely going to have to look to go to Fremont, to Oakland, out to Walnut Creek, maybe over to Pleasanton. It's just not Hayward's strong point. Pro number 4 for being in Hayward, it's the weather. Now, of course, the weather and how you like it is an individual, taste thing. But Hayward just happens to be located in a part of the Bay Area that has very temperate weather. It doesn't get extremely hot. In the summers, it usually gets into the 80s, maybe 90s for a day or two. And in the winters, it tends to go down to maybe the 40s. You don't get much below that. And that's because it's in what is known in the Bay Area, a microclimate of being right near the bay. It keeps the weather and the temperatures in a pretty narrow band, and it's usually pretty comfortable. Now, if you like it really hot during the summers, you need to move further out in the East Bay. But if you do that in the winters, it's going to be colder. You can get below freezing out there. And that's cold by our California standards, okay? I grew up in Chicago. I know what cold is. But, it's a California mindset. The 4th pro to being in Hayward, well, that's employment opportunities. And that's not to say there are no employment opportunities in Hayward. There's some medical profession opportunities. There's some private industry opportunities there. But chances are, if you live in Hayward, you're going to be commuting to work, assuming you have to go into work. And that means you're going into Oakland, not a bad commute at all. San Francisco, not horrible, especially if you take BART. Or you're going into Silicon Valley somewhere. And those drives, as I mentioned earlier with the traffic, it can be a little bit difficult depending on where you're going and when you're trying to get there. If you want to learn more about Hayward, check out this video I did a couple of months ago. It should be popping up here any moment. It'll take you around the neighborhoods and give you a little bit more in-depth information about Hayward. If you've got questions, you know what to do. Drop me a text, give me a call, send me an email. Contact information is in the video description below. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button so YouTube knows to show it to other people with interests similar to yourself. Hit the subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you know each and every time I drop a new video, and I'll catch you in the next video.